Hey folks, this is Best in Slot. Welcome back to our Planet Zoo, Elderwood Zoo, tropical zoo build kind of shebang. In the last video, we began Bonkers, Barry's, Bali, Bonanza. And we did the Red River Hogs and kind of like a little introduction. Now we're going to build the zoo entrance, we're going to build a little ticket station, and we're going to build a Fossa habitat, which is going to be destroyed. So the first half of the video, probably about half I would say, is focused on building the entrance. I thought I'd had a slightly novel idea. It turns out Frontier built their own version of the same thing, but in Indonesia, temples there's a very specific sort of style of entrance wherein it's like this staggered pyramid shape almost, but it's a hard line down the center, so it's like a big open straight doorway and then it staggers down the side. So I wanted to build something similar to that. I figured, Barry's gone to Indonesia and he's just kind of stolen everything he saw, basically. He doesn't really care where it came from. He's just, I want this, I want this, I want that, I'm going to stick it in my zoo. And he's very excited about the idea. So I'm going to use a lot of this mossy stone coupled with a lot of this this wood kind of texture. And I just wanted to use a lot more of the Indonesia pack materials. It is a tropical pack, but it's mainly Indonesian sort of stuff in terms of the building items. There's a lot of them I still haven't used, but we'll get there as we move through the zoo. I'm still trying to come up with some novel ideas, particularly for the sloth habitat. I've not got there quite yet. The Fossa habitat is going to be... It's got a little story to it. It's not excessive. There's a thing called a fadi or fadi, I can't remember the pronunciation, which is basically a taboo in Indonesia. Everyone has cultural norms and taboos in existence that you have to follow, otherwise you get ostracized by society. It's a little bit bigger than in that, the taboos in Indonesian culture are believed to be enforced by supernatural entities of some description. So, breaking one of these taboos is a big deal. It can bring harm to your family or bad luck and all this kind of jazz. More than just, like a faux pas, essentially. It seems like a slightly higher level kind of thing. And there's some really interesting ones. So, I'm going to tell you three. First of all, pointing at a tomb. You're not allowed to point at a tomb. Secondly... pregnant women shouldn't eat eels, apparently. And this is all just Wikipedia. And finally, onlookers describing a newborn baby as ugly. These are all listed in the fadis. Fadi? Fardi. If I had to guess, it's probably Fardi, actually. Fardi. And one of them is actually also to do with fossas. Fossas are deemed quite important. I believe some people are quite fearful of fossas. I've got that kind of meaning. And the mistreatment of a fossa is a fadi as well, and a fardi. Fardi is a fardi as well, and can bring bad luck upon you and repentance and stuff like that. Fossas are to be feared and well looked after and all that kind of jazz. And obviously Barry cares not for this kind of thing. He cares not at all, for he is Bonanza Bonkers Barry, so he's not going to treat the fossas particularly well, and that's why I wanted them to be the first exhibit in the zoo itself. The idea being, he treated these fossas poorly and the world took revenge on him, basically. And that kind of thing happens, generally speaking. Bad things happen to everyone, really. I always feel like if you put negative energy into the world, it reflects on you, if not in how you're like in how you look. There's a whole thing in The Witches by Roald Dahl where it says, if you're a happy jolly person, it doesn't matter if you weigh 5,000 pounds or you've got a B for a face. You'll reflect joy and you'll seem like a beautiful person. And the witches, who could have been quintessentially beautiful, instead turn out as these horrible, monstrous people because they are horrible, monstrous people in terms of their personality. That's Barry, basically. So just building up the entrance here. It was never quite the size I wanted. I had a real problem. This little bit here, I really liked what I'd done with the stone, so I didn't really know what to do. So the idea is, at least in part, that what's happened to this zoo is, as I've mentioned with the Red River Hog, we're kind of going to extend that a little bit in that there's sort of tremors under the ground. The tunnels, the mining tunnels nearby have kind of started to collapse, and that's kind of splintered some of the rock, and that's kind of caused trees to fall over and stuff like that. We're going to really make this zoo feel abandoned and overgrown and I really wanted to sell that kind of almost Last of Us kind of feel. You know, that's definitely the goal. And the more I say it out loud, the more I think we could push that even further, actually, now that I think about it. So we may go back and do a little bit more of that. But just bringing this thing up. So the idea, as you see, is to stagger it inwards, so it's thicker at the base and then a little skinnier at the top. It definitely isn't as tall as I would have liked. And I hate the back of these stone pieces, but I figured as well, the back of it doesn't matter. Because Barry is exactly the kind of guy who would have this beautiful front-facing Indonesian opening temple doorway kind of thing, and then he would completely neglect the backside of it, because it's all sizzle, no steak, it's all flash, no substance. You know, it's about putting a good front on, but the actual meat and actual content isn't actually there. So that's my justification anyway. It does actually make sense in universe at the very least. But yeah, I didn't really have a good idea for this. I had a few reference images up of actual Indonesian temples and they're beautiful things, and I just wanted to build one up as realistically as possible, at least something that looked pretty good. And not much else to say on this matter. It must be something. I've got to admit, this is the first episode I've really started to use. Obviously, Planet Zoo added, you'll see when the 3D gizmo's up, that they've connected all the arrows. And you will accidentally, I saw a lady designer mention this on Twitter, and it does happen, you accidentally grab the double gizmo rather than the single arrow that you're trying to grab, and you'll accidentally move it the wrong way, yada yada. It does happen to me quite a lot, I'm not gonna lie, but overall, I think it's been a real positive addition. There's certain things I was moving earlier on by using the double gizmo, and it just made life so much easier, so much quicker, it really did. So, big fan of that. Nearly done now. I figured I'd throw a bit of mesh in there, because again, he wants to contain his animals, and it's meant to feel a little foreboding. You know what I'm like? Like you can't build something and not have it be foreboding in the slightest. That would be silly. It's meant to be a little bit ominous, and just a little hint of mesh here and there. You know, he's kind of trying to present himself as this worldly kind of person who's very into the culture and stuff like that, but it's all a front, really, to containing animals, to containing people, to keeping his assets safe, basically. Anyway, it's time to ruin the whole thing, so I'm going to throw a load of roots on it, a load of ivy and stuff like that. We're going to build the Fossa habitat in its entirety. What I find when you're building something that's destroyed, it's better to build the thing correctly and then destroy it, rather than try to build a destroyed thing. I just find that a lot easier personally. It's kind of like if you're doing speculative paleontological art or any monster design or anything like that at all, anything that's sort of out of the ordinary, the better your grasp of actual real life physiology and morphology and creature design and stuff like that, and how muscle works and all that kind of stuff, the easier you'll have a time of making something that breaks those rules, but in a way that still kind of makes sense. You know, you need to know the rules to break the rules, kind of thing. And I think that kind of goes with building as well. But yeah, not much else to say about this. Just sticking some of this ivy on. Wasn't really my tropical plant list, but it just sells it. You know, it really does. It just sells it. It's overgrown. It's covered. There's stuff everywhere. I've thrown the decals later on. I completely forgot about the decals, but the moss decal in particular, we're going to use loads of. This kind of detailing process does take a lot of time, but I think it really adds to the total look. This, I mean, you know what I'm like. I hate building buildings. This is just a little ticket office. It's basically just a tiny little thing. Again, I like the idea that you've got this big, elaborate opening, and then you've just got like a little hut that they stick their ticket worker in. You know, Barry's not the kind of guy who's going to pay you well or care about your well-being. It's a little thing with like as you can see, like a corrugated metal roof. It's just cheap and tacky, because you're through the gates at that point. You know, he just wants to get you through the gates, get you paying. He doesn't care about the comfort of the people working there. Stuff like that. I do need to add, however, I've left space on the left-hand side. I want a gift shop sort of thing, I suppose, because, again, it's Barry. He's going to sell gift shops. He's going to try to sell you some tat, right? Obviously. But I can't be bothered. I might just steal one from the workshop, if I'm totally honest. I just want to kind of focus on the habitats, but we'll see how I feel this coming week. Anyways, yeah, chucking loads of plants in. I'm still trying to use quite a lot of stuff from, again, Elderwood in general. Again, I want that feeling of the nature, the plants kind of battling against each other for supremacy. There's a lot of the A lot of the London fog grass, some of the other trees are going to come back and be used again, like inside the zoo itself. It should always feel like Elderwood is still present, and I'm going to use the same animal signs and the same something else. Anyways, just building a big opening plaza area. The good thing about this, because it is a mini roadside zoo, it wouldn't have too much stuff, side stuff. You know what I mean? It would have exhibits and exhibits, and that's about it. Like, you wouldn't go much beyond that. So, but I found this really cool Fossa habitat online, which had like a brick wall like this, and this is a new Indonesian brick as well, so it made sense. It's like a brick wall, and then a glass viewing panel built into the wall, and then the mesh was directly atop that. So that's kind of what I was going for, realizing I needed to have the glass and the mesh sort of hit directly there. I'm not totally sure how happy I am with the whole thing. This mesh work was really, really annoying to do, because obviously a corner and mesh does not go together that well, so I had to kind of basically use a little tiny piece. It actually, you know, it ended up absolutely fine. How did I do this again? One by one, I think. No, there you go. So built the panel, and then just kind of turned it. And although it is obviously a straight line turn, and yes, I can see the little gap there, it kind of looks fine in game. It really does. It looks curved. It's as close as you can get to curved mesh anyway. There's no other realistic way to do it. The other problem is, though, you'll see a lot of mesh bird habitats or Fossa habitats or whatever they are, and they've got like a curved roof. The idea of doing the curved side and the curved roof together, like you can see, there's a lot of time me here just staring at it and thinking, how on earth would I possibly do that? There was no way. It was just, the idea of trying to combine the two was absolute nonsense. You can either do a curved roof or the curved wall. Doing both in Planet Zoo is a madness, to say the least. Looking at the photo I was looking at, I don't think it's curved. I think they use a slight fisheye lens, and that's why it looks curved to me. So I think I've kind of invented this curve. But, hey ho. I wish I hadn't done it now. The curve has been so annoying, like for the entire build. This curve really annoyed me. Anyways, using the marquee things there, just adding a little stability to the mesh, basically. I was in two minds, because I don't want the exhibit to be huge and lovely, because that doesn't really make sense for what we're doing here. All the animals should feel contained, but I want them to be happy, you know, within reason. I don't want to feel mean about what I'm doing with the animals, so I kind of need to give them a decent amount of size and give them lots of foliage and stuff. At the end of the day, the thing's overgrown, and it kind of makes sense for it to have tons of foliage and nice things like that lying around anyway. Wow. This bit was the worst bit. Again, from like any form of distance, it looks fine, but up close, it's a little bit of a disaster, but it is what it is. And that is the basic shape of the Fossa habitat. What I really wanted to do as well was focus a little bit on verticality. I wanted there to be lots of things to climb. I wanted to kind of fill the space. So, yeah. And then some more Indonesian thing. I kind of regret the brick. We're going to change the colour of it later when I'm brightening it up, which really helps, but I'm not a big fan of this brick, it must be said. It's not my favourite building material. I don't think we'll be using it again. I'd like to use more of the Indonesian stuff. I'd like to build something that looks a little bit more like an Indonesian kind of temple and is a little bit more elaborate. The Fossa habitat is not that elaborate. Although this was a big build, including the entrance and everything. We're talking about 5 hours for everything, so... but yeah, I like the idea. The next habitat, I think, is gonna... The monkeys. What is it? I can't remember. It's like gibbon, isn't it? God, I don't even remember. I think it makes sense for the gibbon habitat to be something templey that they can explore. So we might do that for the next one. And then I'd like something using the thatch as well. It's nice when you get a new pack to sort of explore and use everything in it, you know? Anyways, throwing some grass in, throwing some height in there, the little verticality, and some little dirt path areas. I wanted it to feel like the Fossas could navigate through on this dirt path, but then in the foliage areas, it was super dense with foliage. And I knew I wanted a big... Again, I was looking at... There's a lack of big dead trees in this game, by the way. Like, I think it's something that could maybe be expanded on a little bit. This is the best big dead tree. I would like a bigger big dead tree. But I wanted it to fill the habitat. I knew I wanted a big dead tree, but I knew I also wanted it to fill the habitat a little bit more than it was doing, so I thought I'd raise it up on like a stone pillar in the middle, and it gives the exhibit kind of like a focus point. And then a little bit of time as well focus on giving them something to climb over, basically, because this is something I kind of neglected in the past as well, I would suggest, really. It's just not my thing. I don't know why it's not my thing. But probably because I don't know well enough how the animals how they work and how they react to the climbing abilities. Of course, there is a new brachiation thing now that... Oh, that's a good idea, actually. The gibbons will brachiate on vines and stuff like that. It's a new mechanic, so we could do the gibbon habitat and not use any of this climbing stuff and have them swinging along the vines. That'd be cool. But yeah, I like the idea of having this brachiation pole kind of around the rock itself and then having the other climbing frame kind of descend over it. Kind of a shebang. I don't know if it's actually big enough for them to use, frankly. I mean, they're not going to brachiate. It's a fossa, so it would look a bit bizarre if they were brachiating. So they'll assumedly walk along the top of it, so it should be absolutely fine. I think I've kind of planned around that. I haven't added the fossas yet, so I don't know size-wise how well they fit into this whole thing. But we'll see how it goes. I took a couple little platforms on there as well. And then just more detail work. So I wanted to try out this new... There's some interesting things, like what's this? This little bark thing that you can stick. I don't know what you choose it for, but I've used it for that so far. Basically. Exhibit's basically done. Obviously there's lots of foliage to go in there still, but in terms of the actual build, it's basically done. Now it's all detailing and extra stuff, and I really wanted to put like a little house on top of that, but I just couldn't find a justification for it. Lightened up stone a little bit there, and then thought, okay, we need some details, obviously. And this is where the curve becomes a problem, because you can't get those details to curve around, right? So I focused very intently on this first bit and figured, I'll just block the rest off with a tree. It'll be fine. Not that tree, we'll do it later, but there will be some blocking off to try and hide the extraneous details. And as I said, now that this basic shape has been built, let's break it. So, again, we're using a Elderwood tree, breaking in some of the mesh there, at the top and at the sides, and having the metal sort of lying on the ground and stuff like that. At some point as well, we'll go back and we'll kind of bend the metal so it looks like it has splintered away or bent away from the encroaching tree, which itself is being sort of ripped out of the earth by this subterranean malfeasance that's going on. Malfeasance for malfeasance's sake. I think it added quite a lot, having those kind of like a Jurassic Park broken out fence kind of vibe, you know what I mean? And just having those little bent pieces of metal just really does give it the feeling that this tree has collapsed onto the habitat and wrenched the foliage, the mesh and the metal away. I don't know what the fossas can climb. I suspect they can't climb out. If they can, however, Planet Zoo's got a very useful thing where you can tag an item as a climbable item. You can just tag it as unclimbable and they'll leave it alone. A little mesh fence to the left. I'm going to build a building in front of this, so you will see a lot less of that. But I figured, again, Barry's the kind of, he's going to just erect like a cheap... You're inside now. He's going to erect a cheap metal fence to keep people away, stop them breaking into his zoo, stuff like that. And I had a little idea here, just to stick a billboard along, so that when you're walking along the path, or you're taking the boat out of town or into town or whatever, you're walking along the shoreline, there's like a little billboard there showcasing the zoo. It's the kind of thing Barry would do. Here we've got our entrance gate. Like I said, this place has been condemned. It's been shut down by the local authorities, but someone has cut the chain. That's why it's laying there on the ground, and the fence has been knocked down to the side. And it's now, that's happened so long ago, the fence itself is beginning to overgrow a little bit as well. This is where the build kind of came. I was anxious about this build. I nearly scrapped it about an hour and a half in, I'm not going to lie, because I didn't love the habitat. And as per usual, I just have to trust that if I keep hammering away, it will turn into something eventually. It took a long time for this one, for me to get to a point where I was moderately happy with it. Fossa does not fit in this gap, so my solution is novel. It's put the S on the floor, basically. Like, you can kind of, if you look at it, you can kind of figure out it won't fit, but it doesn't matter, because it fits now. Also, plant pots in this game are super small. I never realised till now. Gonna do a little sign there saying, this facility has been condemned by the local authorities on authorization of blah blah blah, something like that. That's the general idea. And this was the point I realised that that decals exist. I haven't been using them at all in this entire build. They haven't really made sense till now, but the moss on top of the Indonesian stone is such a good combination, and it really started to sell that kind of feeling I was going for. I think when we add this extra building on the left, this kind of it's just going to be a little gift shop. There has to be a gift shop, and I want to break the path on the left a little bit. It's too much wide open path area now, so I kind of left a gap there, hoping that I could put a gift shop in and break that path open a little bit. I'm hoping that'll... yeah, I know what I mean. That'll sell the feeling a little bit more. We're going to do like a full-on abandoned gift shop with stuff falling over, all the stuff on the floor, blah, 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 blah. It's going to be cool. And a couple little lanterns in here. Oh, no, it's on the floor. I have a theme, okay, and I'm sticking to a theme. Everything is broken. Life is pain. Now it's time for some foliage. I am addicted to this. What's it? Kentia? Or is it Kenti? Kentia? I can't remember what it's called. I love this palm. It's a new one from the Tropical Pack. It is now my favourite plant in the entire game. I am absolutely in love. It is a thematic linchpin for this zoo. This, and I really like this as well. These new basket ferns. They're really nice. They look really cool on rock like this. I don't care if it makes sense. We've been through this before. Like these I can't remember what they're called off the top of my head anymore. They're very well-known plants in South America for being incredibly foul-smelling, basically. I know it's not realistic to just have them dotted around like that, but again, we're looking for vibe here. And tropical plants in this game, actually, if you look at the list, they really struggle for colour. There's very few colourful tropical plants in this game at all. A really surprising amount, actually. So that's why I was sinking the tree into the ground with the yellow leaves. That's why I was using the smelly plants, because I wanted to get a dash of colour in there, basically. A couple of cardboard boxes. Again, cardboard box seems like the kind of enrichment that Barry would bring in, because it's a cardboard, like it's enrichment, but it's a cardboard box. Like there's no work involved. He just has to grab an Amazon box and chuck it in the habitat, and they're moderately happy, you know. So again, felt very much like the kind of thing that Barry would do. God, I love those palms. What are they called again? Something Kentia? I don't remember. Last little bits of detail here, just adding some ivy along the top again. The whole thing's meant to be overgrown and abandoned. The Fossas could, of course, escape, realistically. I think the idea is kind of just that they've kind of settled into the habitat. They've got everything they need. They're moderately happy here. They don't feel the need to escape. They could if they wanted to. They've brought the torment to Barry and his zoo. You know, they've done their job. But they want to stick around. They like where they're living. They're pretty chill. So I think that's kind of the idea. But yeah, it looks alright actually. And then I fell in love again with the tree ferns here at the end. I thought, oh, let's put a tree fern everywhere. I don't like them sitting as trees, but when you see them down into the ground, I think they look really good. And again, this moss texture is fantastic. I need to use it way, way more. It just looks so good. It really makes things feel sort of stagnant, I guess, and old, and like they've just been there rotting for ages, so it's allowed this moss to creep in and take control, and I really like that. And throw some cracks and stuff on the ground, some gouges there, especially around here where the ground's kind of erupted. A couple cracks on the glass as well, just to make it look like it's splintering a little bit. I'm going to use, again, so I'm bringing in the other signs from the rest of Elderwood, because I figured we need some thematic consistency with the habitats. But that's about it. Like a lot of stuff. There's some trees. There's a couple of the different signs. Fossa Forest, I'm going to call this, I guess. And the animal signs and the big animal sign. And then that is your lot. So we will hop in game. I might do a little bit. I was meant to get an American flag. I feel like Barry would love an American flag. So I still need to build like the thing, the gift shop, and I also need to actually get the Fossas into the park. I might do a little bit more work, but either way, that is like 99.9% of the build. And yeah, we'll check out in game in a second, and then we'll spend some time with our Fossas. I'll see you in a sec. Alright folks, let's check it out in game. One minor correction I need to make. I realised this as soon as I finished the last part of the video. I mentioned the Fardi, those taboos, cultural taboos, and I mentioned it in relation to, I believe I mentioned it was Indonesian, and obviously it's not, it's, you know, it's where the Fossa is from. It's from the Malagasy people, I believe is what it's called. It's from Madagascar, basically, which is where the Fossa is from. Hopefully I've corrected that in post, but just in case I forget, I thought I'd mention it now. Anyways, we're going to start Hog Hovel, because it's part of the whole experience. I've actually really grown to like this Red River hog habitat because it feels quite natural. Just a little bit of control there with these little fences, and that waterfall was hard work, but I think it's turned out really well. Actually, I think it's probably my best work in terms of waterfalls at the very least. And yeah, really big fan. So now this is what this area looks like. So we're gonna move on. Dodum very slowly to our new entrance. So this is what I mean, you know, it's kind of flat at the side. I know it's quite hard to see when it's actually being built, but it's flat at the sides, and then it kind of staggers downwards like so. And obviously it's all overgrown and viney, and anyone who's been watching me for a long time knows that my obsession with the strangler fig tree is always this tree and to have it growing out of something. I just think that looks really cool, and it looks, because of the shape and the sort of the bendiness of the strangler fig, it looks like it's kind of careening around and growing around the structure. I'm addicted to doing that. It's my favourite thing. Anyways, moving on. So you enter over here. Slight problem in that this is super bright. I'm going to have to redo the sign and darken it a little bit because only the TVs are small enough to be this size. You can't get a 1 meter projector. It has to be a TV for 1 meter. A 1 meter projector would be lovely, or the ability to turn the TV off. Maybe you can do that. Anyways, but we've got a fallen sign with the moss growing over it and the ivy. A couple of keep out signs. Obviously, this has been fallen down or broken. You can see the chain there. Even put a little dink in the chain as it's going down this little bit of hill there. Lots of cracks in the ground. There's our abandoned little ticket booth. I might do a little bit more detail on there, some posters and stuff like that. Our plants all overgrown, and there is our fossa habitat. I really like this, actually. You know, I've been iffy on it for the entire build, and just now it's kind of clicked in my head. It really does feel like an abandoned zoo. I'm quite chuffed with it, actually. It took a lot of work, all the detailing work, and there's still more. Like I say, I want a building here on the left-hand side. I don't want to block off the view of this broken fence section too much, however, but we'll do a little bit. Anyway, so there's the Fossa Forest sign. There's a little fossa in there, as you can see. A little bit of moss growing on that. We've got the fallen tree. Again, you can see the metal kind of bent around it. I think that's a really big part of why this works, is just that metal there. I'd like to maybe add a little bit more mesh, just so it like comes up to the metal and even goes with the bend. I think that would look really good. Anyway, that splays out there. I don't know why that keeps doing that. I'm going to have to faff around with that ivy a little bit. There's our fossa sign. I did a little work here at the side as well. Just added a panel just so it looked a little less boring, and did a little bit more detailing work in general. I did the signs, as you can see. I know some people like to read these, so there you go. Do you want to pause that? There you go. Fossa sign and fossa habitat. So usually you'd go up to the, you've got the mesh to kind of contain them, but let the sun in and let the air in, but you would view them, and there they are on our brachiation pipes over there. There's only 2 in there. I don't know why, because it's sandbox, but I do like to keep the numbers real. Oh, hello. I like to keep the numbers realistic. So there's a male and a female inside the habitat. Meow. Let's take a little look inside. There they are. Hello, buddy. Do a little moonwalk there. What are you up to? I actually really like the faucet. Oh, whoa. Fancy little lasso lad. I'm not sure which one you are. What are you doing? Oh, you're messing around. You've got the box. Barry's Amazon box. Yeah, you show that box who's boss. Burn down the system. Eat the rich. Fossa says eat the rich. Fossa says capitalism's a scam. Oh, they sound awesome. I've never experienced them in game because I didn't do my animal highlight video, so I've never actually heard them before. They sound great. Oh, nice. I was a little concerned they couldn't get onto this bit here. But that doesn't... Oh, I'm on it now. That doesn't appear to be the case. They can jump from there to there. I don't think they can climb up the way I wanted them to, which was via this. But, some things are just for aesthetics. That's okay. I still don't know what my big sloth idea is. They're definitely partially responsible for the death of Bonkers Barry, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, this is me establishing the language of this part of the park. This is what the rest of the park is going to look like. I'm going to stick with this foliage. I'm going to stick with the ivy and the overgrown, the mesh, the glass, the red wood that I've been using, a lot of the Indonesian stone. So that we're going to carry that through and hopefully make the whole thing feel thematically different, while each exhibit hopefully has something unique to it as well. That's the hope. We'll see how things go. If you've got any suggestions, feel free to let me know next in the comment section down below. But I think we might do the house next over here somewhere. I kind of want to do like a little cafe standout. I just don't want to do exhibit. You need like little things in the way. I'd like to also get some elevation in there. We could have a little think about that. But maybe you have to walk through it. So maybe you can come down here, have to walk through. I'll have a little think. Either way, we are done. Yeah, thank you very much for joining me. Throw me a like down below if you enjoyed the video and you're enjoying the build, and I will see you lovely folks very, very soon. Of course, I will throw some Fossa clips down below as well, just after I say goodbye. So, cheers much love as always. Bye-bye.
Hoppity hoppo.